Hi, good morning, everyone. We're so glad that you're here for our in-school opera webinar. Please tell us what school you're at. You can just drop it in the chat. Well, hi, everyone. We're very, very happy to have you here. My name is Danielle Kraus, and I'm a member of the Young Patronesses of the Opera. And we're very excited to share this opportunity to introduce you to a fabulous opera singer who performed in the opera we're highlighting today, Little Red Riding Hood. Hopefully, you've seen the opera recording already. If not, your teachers have a YouTube link for you to watch it soon. This opera was written by a composer named Seymour Barab. There are many versions of this story, but in this version, and everyone knows how Little Red visits her grandmother and ends up meeting the wolf. But in our version, you get to see how Little Red is able to defeat the wolf with just her words. She also learned some very valuable lessons like don't speak with strangers and always listen to your mother. Today, I'm very, very pleased to introduce you to the man who played the big bad wolf, Mr. Graham Fandry. He's going to share with you his career story, including how he has sung all over the world and even on Broadway. And, of course, his time singing in our opera for you all. Before we start, let me remind you that you can ask Graham questions by typing them in the Q&A box anytime during this webinar. Please use the Q&A box for the questions, not the chat. He will answer the questions towards the end of the webinar, but you can type your questions in anytime. So without further ado, Mr. Graham Fandry. Welcome, Graham.
Hi, Danielle. Good to see you. It's you and I have a long history together, and you know that I find you near and dear to my heart, as I do all the women from YPO and my home in Miami. Hello, everyone out there. It's good to be with you today. My name's Graham Fandry, as you might see on the screen pretty soon. I was just like you all. I went to school in Miami. I went to school at a school called Howard Drive Elementary School. And this was, ooh, I'm not going to tell you when. Yeah, I'll tell you when. I went there in the 80s. So I started school in Miami around 1983 or so when I was in elementary school. And I had a really, really fantastic time being part of the community down there because I'm originally from up north, from a city called Detroit in Michigan. I moved down to Miami when I was 4, and I had a really great time going to school. And when I went to elementary school at Howard Drive Elementary School, we were lucky enough to have a lot of programs that came to our school. And one of the programs was called the In-School Opera Program, which was run by some really wonderful people and supported by the Young Patronesses of the Opera, the YPO. And that was my first exposure to opera, and I thought, hey, it's fun. That's cool. That's nice. I was a singer. I sang in choir, and I had a beautiful high voice. Although I know I have this low voice now, but back then I was a male soprano, a little boy, and I thought it was really cool. I ended up going to middle school, or junior high back then, at Palmetto Junior High, Palmetto Middle School, which we call it now. And I got into chorus, and while I was there, lo and behold, what shows up again? Some opera. And this time, I think it was the Greater Miami Opera, which turned into Florida Grand Opera. And they brought a opera to the school that was very short and reminded me kind of the in-school opera. So I had that connection to it. And I thought, oh, this is pretty neat as well. They're having a great time. There were young people singing up on stage, which I thought was pretty amazing. And then I was in chorus, and I decided to maybe do a little solo here and there and start being identified as a solo singer. Went to Palmetto High School, and then I got the call from a school down in Miami, which some of you all might know, called New World School of the Arts. Do any of you all know New World School of the Arts downtown? Yeah. So I got a call to see if I wanted to go there. So I ended up going to New World School of the Arts as a choral singer and eventually solo singer. And then yet again, I got exposed to opera through Florida Grand Opera, going to see the Barber Seville, where they supplied tickets to us. And Young Patrons of the Opera were supporters of the opera there. So I got to see Barber Seville, one of the more fun operas you'll ever hear. So Barber Seville, for you all that don't know, you know it. If you've ever seen Bugs Bunny, okay? You ready? Figaro, 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 Figaro. That's Barbara Seville. Figaro is the character in that one. So I thought, wow, this is really, really, really cool. Or you might know this line too. You might know this line. L'acqua todo nella città largo. La 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 la. Presto bottega che lavoreggia presto. La 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 la. And so I thought, oh, I remember that from the cartoons. That's pretty cool. So this is what it comes from. So I was really I was becoming hooked on the idea of being a singer, a professional singer, especially with my teachers at New World saying, "Hey, Graham, maybe you should do that." So I auditioned for some colleges, got into a few of them, and I chose to eventually go to the New England Conservatory of Music, which is in Boston. I spent 5 years there studying voice. That's now a conservatory for you all. Conservatory is where you only study in the specifically in the discipline that you take part in. So in this case, music and voice for me. I had maybe one English class. I had one general history class. The rest of my 5 years there was all music classes, all voice lessons, and then opera too. I was part of opera workshop and the opera theater program there. So it was just very, very, very intensive for 5 years. And Boston was a really fun town. Over 250,000 college students went to that school. I'm sorry, went to that city for school, and there were over 55 colleges in Boston. So kind of a neat city to go to for school. As I was finishing up at my undergrad, I started getting some gigs. Gig is where you work, where you get paid to sing. And I thought, well, this is amazing. I love getting paid to sing. This is the best thing ever. And so I got some work with some local groups and a little bit of opera here and there. And I got the attention of some people out of New York, and I was asked to audition for the Juilliard School, which is a very, very, very famous school for the performing arts that people have been known to for. I mean, some of the most famous people in music and dance and theater all went to the Juilliard School in New York. And I got asked to audition, and I got in for my grad work, and I got a full scholarship, which I would not have been able to go if I wasn't able to get that scholarship. So I ended up going to New York, and I spent a couple years there. And right as I'm finishing up at Juilliard, my 2 years, I start getting a lot of work. And so I jump right into the fray, and I start doing some gigs here and there. And this is funny for me, maybe not for you all, but funny for me. As I left Juilliard and I'm starting to do the work thing, I'm in New York, getting some jobs, figure out how I'm going to support myself while I try to build my career. A girlfriend I had was auditioning for this Broadway show by a famous director named Baz Luhrmann. Baz Luhrmann directed a movie called Moulin Rouge, also Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio, Gatsby, all these different movies. And he was directing an opera on Broadway. The opera is called La Boheme. And I thought, well, I'm not a Broadway singer. And my girlfriend at the time said, well, you could be an opera singer, you could be a Broadway singer. It's kind of a combination of both. It's a real opera, but it's going to be totally different, totally unique. And everyone's auditioning for it all over the world. So I said, all right, well, I'll go check it out with you because you're auditioning. And she went and did the audition, and she said, sign up. So I signed up. And I went in, and I had no thoughts about doing this at all. And I did a quick audition and left. It was no big deal. Forgot about it. And ended up getting a call. And they said, hey, we'd like you to come back in and sing again. We enjoyed your audition. Thought, oh, okay. Well, still thought nothing of it. Went in and did another audition, this time for a few more people in the room. And went fine again, left. And my friends started saying, hey, why are you getting, everyone's auditioning. No one else is getting called back to do another audition except for you. And I said, I don't know. I don't know what happened. And then I got another call to come back again. And this time when I went back, I walked in the room and Baz Luhrmann, the actual director, was there. We met each other, and it was just me with a lot of people in the room. And Baz Luhrmann, I kind of knew who he was, and so I was happy to meet him. And there were some other people sitting in the back, and I knew a couple of them from the opera world, but there are two guys who I didn't know. And turns out, I found out later, when I got the job, that one of them is Jeffrey Sellers, who is the producer of Hamilton. So he was also producing the La Boheme on Broadway. So I did the audition. We had a fantastic time. I was there for about 40 minutes just playing. They were videotaping me and all that. And then I got another call. Hey, come back. We want you to start playing with some of the other people we're thinking about casting to put hiring to go into the production. Then it got real. Then I said, oh no, they're really considering me. I thought I had no chance. Are you joking? I just was playing around. So I went in and we spent 2 days just playing around. I'd go sit outside for an hour reading a book, talking to people. They'd pull me back in and have me sing with one woman, one soprano, and then I'd leave. I'd come back, sing with another soprano. I'd leave. I'd go back in, and they'd have us improv, make up something with a couple of the guys in there. And after that 2 days, I just went home and I thought, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen. And lo and behold, I got a call a couple days later, and they said, "Hey, we'd like to hire you." And I got hired to go on Broadway, and which was one of the highlights of my career. And I ended up going to San Francisco to open the opera, and then to open the Broadway production. When I was in San Francisco, we had a big opening night party, and Nicole Kidman was there. I met her. Kevin Spacey, Andy Garcia, all these people were there that night, and we were the stars, and we got to meet everybody, which was great. When we came to New York, they treated us like royalty. MTV was all about us. We were on MTV doing interviews, and then we ended up meeting a bunch of people from NSYNC, like Justin Timberlake, and all those people came to see our shows as we were ramping up, and it just ended up being a phenomenal experience. And I met just about everyone that you could meet in the Hollywood world, the opera world, the Broadway. Everyone came to see the show. And whenever I was singing one of the big lead roles, I got to meet people afterwards. And my favorite story about that, y'all ready for this? My favorite story is I was singing one of the roles named Shenard, and everyone started saying, "Hey, Jim Carrey's in the audience. Jim Carrey's in the audience." And I said, "Oh, cool. I don't mind singing for Jim Carrey." And after I got changed after the performance, I came on stage. Jim Carrey was there meeting the cast. So I said, "Oh, cool. I'll meet Jim Carrey." And I met him. He was with one of his Hollywood friends and his daughter. And I just said, "Hey, it's good to meet you. Thanks for coming." He was very complimentary. And I asked him if he wanted to go and have some food with us after the performance, because we always hung out after the performance. And he said, "Sure." So we all went out and hung out with Jim Carrey that night. And I introduced Jim Carrey to Patti LuPone. Matthew Broderick was there. Nathan Lane was there. All these famous people. And I just thought to myself, wow, I might be cool. I don't know if I'm cool, but I just might be. So that's my favorite Broadway story. After I left Broadway, and Karen, thank you for the question. I'm gonna get right to you. After I left Broadway, I ended up going back more into opera and ended up making my European debut, singing with the Rotterdam Philharmonic. I ended up going to Japan and singing with the Opera Theater St. Louis in Japan, and just did a lot of concert work. That's where you sing with an orchestra and you're standing in front of the orchestra. The Florida Panthers hockey team called me up and asked if I'd like to sing the national anthem. I sang it once for them, and it went so well that they hired me to be the national anthem singer for a couple of years, which was a blast, by the way. Go Panthers. And I eventually there it is. Yeah, that's the Panthers. That's me singing the national anthem. They now look at that. You see that jersey I have on there? I thought, ooh, this is a cool jersey. Those are expensive, right? Oh, they'll let me have it. They didn't let me have it. They took it back. Now here, check it out. I was just here in Pittsburgh, where I live now, and I sang the national anthem on a Monday night football game a couple of months ago, or a month or so ago, for Ben Roethlisberger's last game. And they gave me a big old jersey. I sang it, national TV and all that. They gave me the jersey, so I have it over here. And my son says we have to keep it and frame it, which I don't necessarily agree with that. But thank you, Pittsburgh Steelers and Florida Panthers. You owe me a jersey. But I still love you. After when I got to Miami as well, I moved down to Miami. I started working in teaching and doing admin and whatnot. Taught at University of Miami, taught at New World School of the Arts. The Young Patronesses called me and said, would I be interested in singing in the in-school opera? And I jumped at the chance, because the in-school opera is what got me my start. And I thought, I want to give back to that too. So I was then able to sing a couple different roles with them. But the one we're talking about today, which you heard, was the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. Do we have any pictures of the wolf here? I know there's a picture of me with Little Red Riding. Oh, there, yep. See, that's me. Um, that is not my boa. I don't own that one myself, but it is nice. Yeah, right. That's me with Little Red. And I'm being poisoned by her talk about candy because candy makes the wolf's stomach really, 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 really hurt. You know. Um, oh, okay. That's. Oh, I want to show you this for a second. Hold that up. Hold that. Oh, yeah. That's where are we going now? Aha! Stop there for a second. So, everyone, do you see the woman wearing the pink hat and the guy standing next to her left? I guess it is. Looking at her. They're married. They were both in the Bohème on Broadway with me. They met there. They both got married. He was my roommate on Bohème on Broadway. I'm in the middle there. And then I got invited to Boca Raton only a couple of years ago to sing Bohème with them again, which was really a lot of fun. So that was Bohème down in South Florida. I stepped in at the last minute to help out in that production. But yeah, the Little Red Riding Hood. Going back to those, there's yeah, that's my boa. I'm looking good. That's when I'm, of course, dressing up like Granny and trying to get in there. I'm just about to eat them both. It will be a nice, tasty treat for the big bad wolf. I want you all to know. You see that full outfit there? That was really, really hot. Running around as the wolf and all. I would get so sweaty and yucky, and they gave me clothes to wear underneath because that outfit would get stinky. And so they would Febreze it after every performance, just Febreze it all over. And I just sweat through the whole entire thing. But it was a lot of fun singing for the, oh gosh, thousands of kids that we performed for. So that was a lot of fun. If you have any other pictures of that. Oh, now we talked about Broadway. That's me performing the first time I went on as the lead role. And right there, I'm Marcello, and I'm a painter, and I was just painting that on the edge of the roof. You can't see all that in that picture, but on the edge of the roof. I'm 26 years old, by the way, right there. And he's really sad right there because he misses his girlfriend, Musetta. So he's all sad. But that day in particular was the first time I went on as the big lead role, and I got a call to do it only a couple hours before the performance. I said, sure, I'll do it. And then right after I finished, it was an afternoon performance. They said, hey, how do you feel? I said, that was great, tired, but that was good. They said, oh, great. Well, you have to go on tonight too because the guy doing it tonight got sick. So I went on twice that same day to do that performance. That was a trial by fire right there. And that, you know what, as a painter, this is one of the paintings, and that you see all that red right there, that we would paint that red part really on stage. We'd paint it, and then between performances, the crew would take that. They're the people that work behind the scenes. They would take white paint and paint over it, and then we'd paint over it again. So at the end of our run, this painting had a huge thick layer of paint over the L.A., all those letters right there. And then I had another painting I did early on in the opera on the stage, and I got to keep that, and that's in my basement right now. All the whole cast signed it, which was a lot of fun. And then just moving forward, with a little more talk about what happened after I was in Miami. I ended up forming Magic City Opera in Miami, and we did a lot of great opera in the park, and we would do a yearly Hansel and Gretel opera, which we hope to be bringing back this year again. So I did less singing and more administrative, executive director type work. Then I moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to take some jobs up here, working with the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. But I still sing. So you heard I sang at the national anthem at the Steelers game. I sang some concert work, and I have had some offers to do opera here and there, but because it's so long and I have 3 boys I like to be at home with, I don't take a lot of opera gigs. But I'll probably get back to opera once my boys are older and doing well on their own. Sound good? That's where I am right now. Opera has been one of those things that really exposed me to the world, and exposed me to a whole different way of thinking about art and culture, about education, about the relationships around me. It was a doorway to a whole life that I could never have achieved without being exposed to opera. So I'm thankful for my time with it. And I encourage all of you all, if you decide you want to go see some more opera after seeing this in-school opera, that's great. Go check out opera for Magic City Opera or Florida Grand Opera, wherever it might be. Operas online, operas at the movie theaters now. Do a little research beforehand because it helps. It helps, and I think you'll enjoy it, especially if you start with Barbara Seville or Hansel and Gretel. You'll be good. Sound good?
Wow,
There's
that's
Julie.
great, Graham. How are you? I'm so glad you're here, and I just love that you're sharing with us your career. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That was
so
a mouthful.
yes. Well, I just I know being a member of YPO and also I produce the in-school operas, it has been such a joy to have you as part of our team for so many years. And I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
we can share with the kids today. Just a reminder that we are recording this so that we have some teachers and kids on the call now, as well as YPO women, but we will be putting it on our website so more of our kids can watch this and learn from your career.
Right.
So, but
Right.
I
And
want
Julie, wait. I'm going to out you for a moment. And,
okay.
you know, I know everyone. Julie is phenomenal. I've known her forever, but she's also a singer, and I've performed with her on stage as well in some of these
Yeah.
in-school operas. So yeah, you just when you see her, make sure you know that she knows that she's also a singer too. Don't let her forget.
Oh, I know. I should have sent the picture in of us singing together when you were Papageno and I was Papagena. We'll do that for the next one.
That's right. Good.
Okay, good. Well, we have some questions that have come in. Some were sent in ahead of time and some, in the
Okay.
Q&A box. And anybody that's on the call that's attending, I ask you, go ahead and throw some questions if you have questions for Graham. And we'll ask him for now. So the first question that came in through the Q&A box was, what was the most challenging role you've ever played?
Yeah. If it's opera, the most challenging role I've ever played was probably Germont in La Traviata. Well, because there's a lot of emotion in that role, and it's a decently hard sing. But I have done some new opera, some more modern opera, including one called Miss Havisham's Fire, and it had the role of Pip in that, and his singing for me, especially when I was a younger singer, was extremely difficult. It's not opera people hear a lot, but that was a hard sing as well. I would say that probably the most difficult role outside of just opera itself, and when we talk about the whole classical vocal repertoire for my type of voice, which is a baritone, might be the baritone in Carmina Burana, which you all have heard the main thing called O Fortuna from Carmina Burana. Everyone's heard it. It's in movies, left commercials, it's everything.
Sing it a little bit. Sing it just a little bit.
It's like this. Bum bum dum dum. Dum 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 da 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 dum 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 dum. I think it's huge and big.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yes.
It's awesome.
Dun, 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 dun,
Oh yeah. Timpani throat. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's huge. And there's a baritone solo in that, and I've done that all around the country, and but it's tough. It's a tough sing. You have to be mentally and physically prepared to get in there and do a good job at it. Otherwise, it'll chew you up and spit you out.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
So let me ask you too. You just talked about that you're a baritone. Can you tell us a little bit about the different types of voices that people that the singers have?
Yeah, right. So everyone, as Julie just mentioned, I'm a baritone. Okay, so a baritone is a voice part for male that lies between the lower voice, which is called the bass, and then the higher male voice, the standard higher male voice, which is called a tenor. If we're going to go from the highest voice, that's soprano for females generally, although there's male sopranos too. I know a very famous male soprano, then mezzo soprano, middle soprano is what it means. Then there's alto, which you might know from chorus, tenor, baritone, that's me between tenor, and then bass, which is the low one. And listen, it can get into the weeds, kids, when you were talking about voice parts. And you could be a lyric baritone, which is a baritone with a very nice sounding, high, nice sounding, smooth voice. You could be a Helden tenor, which is a heroic tenor. A tenor has a huge voice, not as high as some of the other tenors, but so big it could sing over an 80-piece orchestra. You could have a coloratura soprano, which is a soprano that tends to be high and can also move their voice very quickly through a lot of small notes over with really rapid tempo. So even within the basic voice parts, there's a lot of specificity for some people when they think about their voice. And we cannot also, especially nowadays, can't ignore the other voice part, which has really come to the forefront, and that's the countertenor. And a countertenor is a male voice that sings in the female voice, standard female voice range. There's a couple famous ones out there that are working all over, and there's a really brilliant voice as well that people are really enjoying right now. So yeah, there's a lot of different voice parts out there. But if we're talking chorus, there's the basic soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and then as you get more and more complicated, it starts to expand.
That's so true. And I'm sure a lot of the kids are learning that in chorus class now. So,
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you talked about all the different ones, because there's so many more little nuances of types of voices. So,
Right, exactly.
and let me ask you, so I think a lot of, I know when I was a kid, I had a vibrato, and a lot of kids don't get it till later. And people would be like, you sound like singing like an old person. Like, what's the vibrato? Explain to the kids the vibrato and how can you give them a little insight? Like, how do you do it, and why you use a vibrato? And, can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. So that's a great question. Vibrato is a natural function of the voice when you're singing with the least amount of tension throughout the throat here. Now, you could create vibrato, people. We can use some muscles to manipulate here and create a vibrato. You hear a lot of that in pop music. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that in certain styles. Well, of course, everything is about style, right? And some of the great singers of the world are opera singers. Some of the great singers of the world are gospel singers. Some of the great singers of the world are rock singers. So, but in classical voice, vibrato is loosening up the singing apparatus right here. All around here, it's called the larynx, right? And we have vocal folds or vocal cords that are in the larynx lying flat like this. They're very tiny. And when they vibrate against each other, when you were making sound, they sound just like this, by the way, kids. I'm gonna try to do it. I haven't done this in a while. If you took off my head right here and just looked at my vocal cords, and I was complaining about you taking my head, this is what you would hear. Or some sort of sound like that. It's just these two cords like vibrating against each other really quickly. Our head is the resonator. When the sound goes up through the vocal cords, that sound you just heard, it goes to the head and chest and creates the sound you're hearing from me right now. Okay. All my articulators helping make words and complaining about this and that. Like my kid's not putting on their shoes quick enough in the morning to get them to school. So the vibrato, when you're going through that whole process, you're trying to keep this part nice and loose so you can be an efficient singer to sing without a mic over an orchestra, so everyone can hear you really well. The more you use what we call entanglement, where you use muscles to hold this here, the less chance your sound can be efficient and resonate well so everyone can hear you with an orchestra. So as you loosen this up, this vibration right here creates an oscillation in this area, which we hear as vibrato. So let's talk about straight tone for a moment. That's no vibrato. Here's no vibrato. La. Now to do no vibrato, I actually have to use a little bit of muscle to hold it still so my voice doesn't vibrate, right? Now I'm going to release here on the same note. I'm going to start with straight tone, and then I'm going to go to vibrato. La. You hear the difference there? There's all of a sudden you start hearing a little kind of like that in the voice, and that's the vibrato. Now a person, yourself, will hear vibrato and experience vibrato differently than everyone else does. And when it comes to professional singers, that's where all of the training, the day in, day out comes into play. Working on that so much to be able to do that consistently, and so it sounds good each and every time. And you almost always need someone there to listen to you, because what you hear in your body is not what everyone else hears outside. Outside, everyone hears a voice coming right at them and reflecting off the walls, right? In your body, you're hearing it off the walls too, to your ears, but you're also getting bone conduction, right? Your bones vibrate when you speak, and you have a small bone in your ear going to your eardrum. And so you're getting all that sound going from your body into your eardrum as well. So you're getting both ends. And so you don't hear your voice the way everyone else does, which means you need someone from the outside to help tell you how everyone's hearing you. So that's a very long description, probably longer than you wanted, Julie, but that's how I talk about vibrato.
No, that's perfect. That's really good information. Another question came in. Can you tell us a little bit about the singer taking care about their vocal health? That's a great question.
Oh, sure, vocal health. That's a big one. Now we just talked about the chords being very small. I'm using my fingers here as an example of both chords, right? But they're actually very, 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 very small, lying here in the throat. And these membranes are very sensitive. And if you abuse your voice, yelling a lot, not drinking enough water, staying up really late, smoking, dehydrating yourself, things like that sort, it affects the muscles around here. They could swell up, right? Or they could also not have enough. Sorry, kids, but it's gross, but it's mucus, right? That you have on there, basically mucus to keep it moist when it's vibrating against each other, and you have less of that, which means that it hurts to sing, and or you get more swelling around there. So it becomes very important to take care of yourself to make sure your voice is in tip-top shape when you're performing, because you as an audience deserve to hear the best that we have to give. You paid for it. You invested your time and money to come hear this performance. So drinking a lot of water. You know how people talk about 8 cups a day, it's a general 8 cups a day. Julie drinks water, 8 cups a day, right? For drinking water. In this case, for singers, we are more aligned with what 10, 12, 14 cups of water a day to make sure we're as hydrated as possible, and there's no chance we're going to be dehydrated. We watch our intake of certain types of foods. We try to get as much sleep as possible. We try to take anti-inflammatory natural herbs like turmeric and things of that sort. We try to take care of our bodies with stretching and things of that sort, and exercise to keep your body in tip-top shape. So there's a lot of work that goes into making sure your voice is working well outside of just the lessons and whatnot themselves. And I do want to jump on that for one moment, Julie, that vocal health, and I talked about yelling really loud and things like going to concerts and screaming. There's a flip side to that. There's some of the most amazing opera singers come from Eastern European folk traditions and African American gospel traditions. It's not exclusive to those traditions. It's just we see a lot of great ones come out of those traditions. And one of the things that both of those traditions share is the ability to just let the voice go and blow, not to hold back, to always let it be as loud and big as possible. And so you end up training your voice to be able to take a lot of pressure. And opera, there's a lot of pressure and tension that can happen in this part of the body. And those singers end up having a certain innate ability from some of their upbringing and background to be able to handle the type of pressure that opera can exert on the voice. So there's a super famous singer who sings down in Miami sometimes, and he's all over the world, named Morris Robinson. Julie, you know the name Morris Robinson?
Yes.
So you all, yeah. Y'all, if you saw Morris Robinson, he's about 6'3". I'm 6'4", so he's a little bit smaller than me, but he weighs about 320 pounds, mostly muscle.
Yeah.
He played football. He was an All-American.
Yeah,
he's huge.
and big voice.
Huge voice. And Morris's voice, he could sing over any orchestra, and his voice could take just about anything. Morris played football forever, yelling, grunting, pushing, all those types of things. So he, luckily, his voice was able to take a lot of pressure due to the fact that opera put no amount of pressure on his voice compared to what he would do to it while playing football. So, there are some examples of people just having being able to handle that type of stress on a voice because of conditioning.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, and it's triggered a couple other questions I want to ask you. One is that you have to really exercise, and you have to keep your body in shape, especially your core, in order to have the strength to do that. And that some people some people have the vocal chops and some people just aren't going to have that even with all their training. And a lot of it
Yep.
comes from the history. So some people will not be able to be opera singers, but they might be able to do some other stuff too. So,
That's right.
so that brought the question up about, you know, when you're in a production, and you might want to explain, like in a production, you know, when you're doing opera, you do months of rehearsal and then you're on stage for whatever, 2 weeks or whatever, you know, for an opera, and then
Right.
and what is a typical day for you? And then one other time when I interviewed you, you talked about how the voice is different in different types of genres, opera versus Broadway, and you gave, and jazz, and you gave some examples. So I'd love for you to just share that again with the kids today, as well as, you know, what's a typical day for you when you're in production and you're going to be, you know, singing with the, you know, either Florida Grand Opera or in New York at the Met, or, you know, wherever it is, or on Broadway. So what's a typical day for you? And then tell us a little bit about the different genres and give us examples. I love when you do that.
Sure. So a typical day, let's do that first. Let's say I have, let's talk rehearsal day first. A typical rehearsal day would be 6 hours of rehearsal, usually starting at around 10 in the morning. We have 10 to 1 rehearsal, then you have lunch break, hour to hour and a half, and then you have the rehearsal into the afternoon. And then, so that's it. Let's say you're singing a lead, you'll be in rehearsal, you'll be working on staging, which is how you're acting and moving around on the stage. You could also have 6 hours of musical rehearsal where you're working with the maestro, the conductor, on the interpretation of the piece with the other singers and you as a soloist. And then also there's the idea about the rehearsals when we're actually in the theater and putting together production. So there's tech rehearsals. You can go on stage and they're working on the lighting and the scenic elements, the props and whatnot. Then we have a couple rehearsals leading up to the main performance. We have a Sitzprobe. That's where you sit on stage with nothing else, set some chairs and the singers and the orchestra in the pit, and you sing it. You just concentrate on what does it sound like in the hall? What's it like to look at the conductor? What does everyone else sound like around me? It's always a lot of energy when we first get to the Sitzprobe. And then you have a Wandelprobe, and that's where it's just like the Sitzprobe, except now if they take away all the chairs and you wander around the stage, Wandelprobe, you wander around the stage, kind of approximating your staging. That way you get to hear how your voice sounds in the back of the stage, in the front, when you're turned at a different angle, whatever it might be. And then, of course, you have dress rehearsals. And that's when you basically do a performance, but with no audience, with all your costumes and the whole set. But you have the opportunity to kind of experiment with the piece, stop and start if need be, and try to figure things out. And that leads up to the performance. I would say that you getting up just about any average day when we're in production, tend to get up minimum 3 hours before I have to start singing, so my body's ready to go. Before I have to eat well or exercise, whatever I have to do stretching, a big one for me, and then trying to get to bed at a decent time, so I at least get 8 hours of sleep when in performance mode. And that's mimicked in a lot of different genres, you know, concert to Broadway. Broadway, the difference is in opera, if you're doing, let's say use La Boheme as an example, because that's a big opera, and it was done on Broadway and outside of Broadway. What I just told you about as far as the schedule goes for an opera singer, for Boheme, that would be totally typical for a company like Florida Grand Opera or West Palm Beach Opera or whatever, Opera Naples. On Broadway, though, we did, and by the way, we rehearsed for 3 weeks for an opera standard before we go into production, right? On Broadway, we rehearsed for 3.5 months for the same opera. And I mean, we do 6 hours a day just on the principles, working the intricacies of the staging and the drama and all that. And then bringing everyone else in. And then once we're performing, we would perform 8 times a week. We perform Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, Thursday, Friday night, Saturday matinee, Saturday evening, and then a Sunday afternoon. So that's 8 performances. And you just have to take really good care of yourself. Kristen Chenoweth, who sang in Wicked and all these other great musicals, started out as an opera singer. And someone asked her a question, how do you take care of your voice singing 8 shows a week and all that? She said, I don't talk a lot. I take a notepad, I write to people, I go home and I'm quiet because you have to maintain your voice over such a long a long run with many performances over the week. So that's pretty typical. Um, when it comes to different styles, that's actually a good segue with Kristen Chenoweth because she started out as an opera singer. She was supposed to go to AVA, which is a very famous school in Philadelphia, and she ended up going to New York and stepped into a Broadway audition, very similar to me, and they loved her, and she never turned back. She was always doing Broadway. Um, I have major respect for every style because I grew up singing all the styles, and I still do. I love the fact that um, opera brought me to all different styles of music and made me feel very comfortable being a musician in general. And the differences in singing are sometimes big and sometimes not so big. And with taking voice lessons, you're able to kind of you learn a lot of the background on what it means to do certain types of singing and do certain types of music, and then you'll make really good choices on that. So I started out singing in just chorus, right? Chorus singing tends to be less big singing like opera, right? And more blended singing. We want our voices to sound more similar to each other so we can sound like we're one entity. If you all know Seraphic Fire in Miami, a great small a chamber chorus, a professional chorus, I sang with them, and it's all about how do we blend with each other and make wonderful music. If then I switched into rock singing, and rock is a little different. So if opera, I'm working on all this mechanism here. If I'm singing a song by Bon Jovi called "Wanted Dead or Alive," I'm going to switch up how I do certain things. And I remember starting some of this and not understanding it when I was in junior high, but now as a professional singer, I get some of the differences and I can switch over. So there's a great part in "Wanted Dead or Alive." It goes like this: "It's all the same. Only the names would change every day." You know, so I'm spreading my mouth all of a sudden. I'm putting more pressure down here to create a certain sound, a certain amount of grittiness. That's totally acceptable and totally fine. And in fact, if I have a microphone, I know that I can be very careful with my voice instead of trying to yell it over an orchestra, which would destroy my voice. But with the mic, I can make those same types of sounds. Dead or alive! I'm not singing loud right now because I have the mic here and I could maybe have a mic in my hand and I could maintain that. And of course, as the more you sing it, the more you build up musculature that can handle that. I ended up doing jazz and pop singing, some gospel singing, and it's all minute differences. The one thing, Julie, I will say though, when you're switching back and forth between styles, it's easier when you spend weeks with a style because you start to develop the habits and musculature to help you sing that style. And when if you're spending weeks doing pop, it might take you a couple weeks to get back into opera as you rework the muscles, rework your mentality, get rid of some of the pop habits and start getting some of the opera habits. But you can go between all of them. I've done all sorts of stuff, music, and you never have to be limited to just one. It's just because you're an opera singer doesn't mean you can't be a jazz singer too, and doesn't mean you can't be a pop singer. And there's all sorts of crossover for them. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you mentioned about choruses and stuff. It really is a great segue into, if I'm a kid on this call or, watching the recording and I love singing and I want to, spend more time doing that, maybe make a career in the future. How do I get started as a kid? What's the best avenues to take? When should I get, are there teachers that help kids sing? And then, if I want to go on, how do I get my career started? Just a little thoughts about that.
Sure. No, it's great. Just about everyone starts out with someone saying, "Hey, there's something about your voice that's unique or whatnot." Not that you need that. You can just have the drive. That's fine too. But almost everyone I know has one of those moments where someone said to them, "Yeah, there's something different about your voice," in a positive way, right? And I would say that join chorus is a great way to start because you're learning reading music and following conductor, ensemble singing, all those types of things. But if you really feel that, I think I want to be a solo singer, I'd like to be on stage in front of people, no matter what genre it is, taking voice lessons is a great start. And so that's when you work with one-on-one generally with a person who's an expert in teaching people how to use the voice well. And for young singers, females, 14, 15 is fine. For boys, men, 15, 16 is fine. There's outliers there all over. Some people start as late in they start in their 20s. Some people start as early as 11, 9 years old. But we're just talking about generality right here. And then you work with them weekly. And even better, if you're really serious about it, try to work more than once a week to establish good habits and be able to practice in and out over and over again with someone that's monitoring you. And that's the big start. And then once you're taking voice lessons, you'll start getting a much stronger idea about where you want to lie in the singer realm. Do you feel akin to classical singing? Do you feel akin more to pop or jazz singing, gospel, whatever it might be? And the lessons will help you maintain good technique and help you have longevity in whichever vein of singing you want to go into. And then once you're old enough, kids, once you're in 17, 18, and then if you decide that you really want to push even more and maybe look into the actual career, then there's all music programs at colleges all over everywhere in this University of Miami, FSU, FIU, all these great places where you can go and learn much more about the career, study even more intensely, and start working toward the career. Now, I'm going to say this right now, Julie, because I used to teach in the University of Miami a course called from School to Stage for grad students. And I always tell everyone that don't have a fallback career. And that fallback career meaning, oh, what happens if you don't make it in opera? You have to have something else you can do. Have a collaborative career. So you could be a musician and you could also be a real estate agent. You could be a musician and you could also be a lawyer. I have a friend who sings the Metropolitan Opera, the biggest opera company in the world. He's also a lawyer. Collaborative career is nice because singing is on and off. You might have 6 months worth of singing gigs, and then you might have 8 months of no gigs. So it's nice to have something else you could do to take up the time, to help pay bills, to help support yourself, help support your singing habit. So I'm a strong believer in collaborative careers. So no matter what you do, even if you decide to go to a conservatory to study singing, it's good to look at other things that you can do as well while you are a performer.
That is great advice. I think so many times people don't think that way. They think if I'm gonna put it all in, and then if it doesn't happen, what do I do? And I love that you're saying, the two sides of collaborative jobs. What do you think is the best thing about being a singer? And well, let me go back and say you have collaborative jobs, as you talked about before. You are the co-founder of the Magic City Opera. You have this big job where you are now in Pittsburgh with the what's the name of the organization again?
Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, and I'm a director of programming.
Right, and then also, you sing in many areas. What's the best thing about your job, being a singer?
For me, it's always connecting with people. I'm definitely a people person. If I were a dog, I'd be a Labrador for sure. Oh, by the way, kids, I don't have it right now, but I just got a Labrador puppy, chocolate lab, and I should have brought him so you could have said hi.
You should have brought him. He's so cute.
He's
Tomorrow.
only 8 weeks old. Yeah, tomorrow. But I really love connecting with people. I love working with people on stage. I love working with the staff and backstage. I love working with the administrative staff. I love working with the patrons, the guests that come to the operas. I think that you end up becoming so ingrained in community, and that's really, really important to me. I know there are some singers who are very, very they're introverts and like to be on their own, and that's totally okay. But for me, being a performer is a way to connect, and I really, really enjoy that. I would say if I was going to give you something secondary, it'd be the ability to be compensated to travel the world and experience new things. I've been paid to travel everywhere around the world. I was a couple of years ago, I was in Singapore and Thailand and Vietnam and China, all over the Mediterranean and Italy. I was paid to do that. And I mean, what a brilliant way to be able to experience life, and a career like being a performer can help afford you that.
That's amazing. That is such a nice part of the job, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wish someone had told you at the beginning of your career that would have helped you now? Anything you wish someone had told you before you started?
We got a lot of advice, and being a young person, I ignored so much because I thought I knew everything. But I would say the collaborative career, people used to talk about a fallback career, which always sounded very defeatist. Collaborative career would have made a lot of sense to me. I Because I would have spent more time saying, hey, there's other things I can do as well, which I do now, obviously. And just about everyone I know as a singer has another collaborative career. Actors, Brad Pitt owns production companies. He produces, he's done some directing. The Three Tenors, we think about them, which are a very famous trio of opera singers. They had all sorts of other businesses they were involved in, besides just singing. So I wish that someone was a bit more forward about that, because I was so single-minded that it just had to be a singing career, that when it wasn't working out the way I wanted it to, I became very despondent and frustrated with it. And I think I would have stuck with singing as a near full-time career longer if I had had another collaborative career that I felt happy about. And that's where I am now. I'm very happy with the fact that I could support myself and my family with this great job with the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, working in the arts. But also I can pick up and take a gig left or right, which is a whole lot of fun. I'm doing a Mozart Requiem just next month. And that's great. Yeah.
Well, and we should say also, you are blessed to be married to a wonderful singer too, another opera singer. So I just love that it's, opera and music is part of and your kids have great voices. You said, I know already they're, showing some promise. I don't know if they're interested in that, but I just love that it's a musical family.
Julie, I want you to know that my eldest son, Marcello, who you met when he was just a baby when I was singing The Wolf, Marcello is now singing. He goes to a MAC in Wynwood, a Miami Arts Charter School, for singing.
Wonderful.
And yeah, and he also sings with y'all, and then he also sings with the rock band that performed at the North Beach Band Show. So yeah, and they're all taking it and doing some with it as well.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think we're at the end of our day of today's webinar, but I want to thank you. Thank Mr. Graham Vondrai again for joining us and sharing your knowledge and experience about operas. And I want to thank everybody who attended today and participating in the webinar. And Danielle, who did our intro, we want to thank her. And we really hope that everybody comes back and joins us for our future ones. Just a reminder, we do have one tomorrow. Again, Graham's going to be back, and that's going to be for people that weren't able to be on today, to talk about Little Red Riding Hood and his career. In March, we're focusing on the opera Cinderella, and we have Bill and Alicia Stafford who performed in that, a married couple who played the prince and Cinderella. And you mentioned how you worked with people that get married, and you're married to an opera singer, so I think that happens a lot. When you work in opera, it's your whole life, so that's how you meet people, right? And
yeah, that's right.
And then we're going to have Graham back in April for 2 dates, April 5th and 6th. All these dates are on our website and shared through the school system, through the Passport program. But Graham will be back with us to talk about Papageno, which is another role he played with us. He's done multiple roles, but we're going to focus on those two with him. And then in May, we'll focus on the Pied Piper. So again, thank you so much for everybody for attending today. We hope you come to future ones. Graham, it's just always, always, always a pleasure to be in your presence.
Oh, you too, Julie. Thank you.
You are such an inspiration to so many people, especially here in Miami, and all that you have brought to our world of music here in Miami. And just delight, and all you've brought to YPO. So thank you. Thank you. We wish everybody a wonderful day, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you all. Bye. Have a good day.